Don't even worry about it.
Okay, so we're talking about the Batman. This is the latest film from Warner Brothers, Matt Reeves. Full spoilers. If you haven't seen it, you've been warned. So, who wants to go first?
It's a good movie.
Absolute trash.
Yeah,
Ben?
It was all right. No, I'm kidding. It was really good. I really like this movie.
You know what? If you said it was all right, that's fine. That's your opinion. Totally valid to your wrong opinion. I was writing my notes for this one, and I was like, I want to write some notes down for this one so I can remember some points. And I was just like, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. These notes are useless. It's just me loving things. I love this movie, and I'm fully willing to admit recency bias here. But I strongly believe it has surpassed Batman Begins as my favorite Batman movie, which has been my favorite Batman movie and probably my favorite CBM for a long time. And now the Batman has surpassed it in every way. I adored this movie.
CBM, chili booked mayo?
Yeah, that's definitely what that means.
Yeah, some people who they might not know.
Comic book movie, for those of you who don't know.
Listen, some people don't know what LOL means, and I'm like, what year is it? You got to be lying to me.
Yeah.
What does that mean? So you can't tell if I'm lying or not.
No, I can't tell because I see you type LOL all the time, Brandon.
Yeah, that's literally that's the end of my paragraph.
It's going to be different when Brandon types it. That means, don't worry, I'm crying inside.
Oh, that's the real LOL. Yes, Brandon, I agree. This movie rules. I think it is my favorite Batman movie. I don't think it's the best movie that has Batman in it. You know what I mean? I still I think The Dark Knight is a better movie. But this is the Batman movie that if I were to make a Batman movie, this is the closest version I'd want it to be. Where it's realistic, but there are still hints of like it could get weird. It can be weird.
I think I echo that assessment where I think this is the best Batman movie, like a Batman adaptation.
I love the world.
So
the world gets a 10 out of 10.
It's so
hands down.
It's so very much all the things I've wanted on screen for Batman for so long done correctly.
The first 10 minutes of the movie gets a 10 out of 10 for me. Like for real. Like the opening with his line, the greatest line in any Batman movie for me. They think I live in the shadows. I am the shadows. Yeah. That is straight out of a Brubaker freaking Batman comic book, baby. It's so good.
When the movie starts, and I had no idea what we were going to do, it says the Batman, and then Robert Pattinson starts doing a voiceover. I was like, they did it. They did it. I've wanted them to do that kind of noir voiceover in a Batman movie for years. Like Spark said, there's a lot in this movie that I've wanted in a Batman film. Not just the fact that it's a near perfect suit where it doesn't like bunch up his face like this. It's a great suit. He does the narration at the beginning and the end, the kind of noir solving narration. He's a detective. He's a good detective. The opening sequence where you're as an audience member not sure, is he in those shadows? Is he watching this person? And it makes him someone on Twitter. I don't always like going to this well, but someone on Twitter likened it to like Michael Myers. Like you don't know if he's there. You don't know if he's stalking or their prey. And like the people who are doing the crimes, they don't know. So that's the kind of fear that he wants to instill in it. And then when he does finally show up and he walks out of those shadows, brilliant.
I absolutely love how every criminal who's doing a crime gets caught by the searchlight and they look up to see the signal, and then the camera instantly goes to the shadows. And I thought the same thing. Like when I saw the guys with the face paint, because it's a trailer shot, I was like, they're going to get beat up by Batman. Mm-hmm. But there's also that, but what if we're seeing his night throughout? Like he takes down the robber, he handcuffs the vandals, and then he finally beats down the gang of thugs. And I'm like, I also have to agree, this probably is, I mean, once again, it might be recency bias because you guys know I love The Dark Knight, but everything I've been wanting in a Batman movie, I got in this one. It's like, this is the mother effing Batman. And this, I feel like it goes back to Batman's roots. It explores his psyche a little bit, or maybe not psyche, that's probably the wrong way to say it, but it just explores the effect he's had on people as a whole of Gotham. You have a great new Riddler who's not just a dude who's like flamboyant and like spits riddles out. He is an actual threat.
What they did was what that I like about Riddler. So Riddler's my favorite Batman villain in the comics. And I've always wanted kind of like a true adaptation of the Riddler. And to a degree, like there's always kind of the sense of like he's upset that he's not smarter than Batman. That's why he's so obsessive, and we do kind of get that in those adaptations, even in this one to a degree. But like, what I found interesting about Arkham Knight, for example, is how they redefined Scarecrow. They made him a terrifying villain, a threat on par with like the best Batman villains. And they did the same thing for Riddler in this movie. And I was very appreciative of it. I really like how they kind of reinterpreted the Riddler while keeping it true to his roots.
Yeah. All the character stuff I really love. Real quick, because there's not a lot of it, I do want to talk about just like the narration is great. And it's also tied to Batman's journey in Gotham, because it's not just narration for the audience, it's him keeping his journal. And then at the movie we see he's kept hundreds of journals, and he writes every single night every single thing he does. And the coolest thing for me about this movie is like he is a detective, but like, man, Batman would have to be like the smartest guy on the planet to remember everything that he sees. Holy shit, he has contact lenses that record everything he sees. That's the brilliant thing that's ever been in a Batman movie.
When he took out,
so smart, I can't handle it.
The thing about when he's at the crime scene, I'm like, can he like get a picture?
He stares at everything. He stares,
and then we get there and he has the contact lens. And I'm like, these mother effers, they're so smart.
So there's two things that you brought up that I do want to highlight. One is the contact lenses. Like the thing about like this movie that we've been seeing in the trailers, like, oh, this is like dark, this is realism, this is Batman. Those contact lenses aren't realism. They are straight out of a comic book. And when he takes them out, there's little cameras. Brilliant. I almost cheered in the audience. I was not in the right audience to do so, but like I almost cheered, like, yes, this is what I want. The other thing about the opening scene where he's in the murder of the mayor and he's looking around, he sees things that the forensic people don't. And so like when he sees the blood, the little bit of blood from the rug scraper, he like looks at it, and then the girl is taking the pictures looks at him. Oh shoot, I should take a
picture of that. And again, like, you immediately know that it's a detective thing because they're looking at the body, and Batman's like, they took the finger off when he was alive. The finger has this type of thing. It's like a medical thing. That's how he's like, and they're like, oh shit, yeah, he's smart. Hell yeah. I love it.
The thumb drive. This movie is also darkly funny, and I love it.
This movie, our audience was not laughing enough for how funny this movie actually is.
Yeah,
I thought this movie was really funny.
There were some parts. I can't remember
jokes in mind. It's just like the scenario that's happening. It's like, this is a real thumb drive. Isn't this ridiculous? It's thumb like drive. Wow, it's so funny.
Just like when the thumb drive, like the device, the USB drive, when it came out, and even Gordon's like, you gotta be kidding me. Also, a huge. Because obviously the Riddler was the guy who plays.
Hold on, wait. Are you about to change topics? Because I have more to say about the topic we were on.
Yeah, I think I was about to change.
Okay, real quickly, before you do so, I want to talk about the humor of this movie a bit more. The thing that I really like about this movie is that it is darkly funny. It is funny. It's not necessarily jokes, but it's never laughing at itself.
No.
And that's really important. Like there is a sense whenever there's humor in the Dark Knight films, all three of them, that it is kind of like we're in on the joke. Nolan is not one to make a joke a minute, so he's not necessarily doing that. But whatever there is, that's just kind of where it sits. But this film, the laughter comes from the comic book absurdity of the situation, such as thumb drive and things like that, but never in a way that makes you feel like, oh yeah, we're in on the joke. There is no joke. That's just a situational humor that this is.
I think the funniest the movie gets is the penguin scene, where Penguin.
No habla español, fellas.
Yeah, like Penguin, like God, Batman and Gordon think they have the Penguin on the rocks, and they're like, "Tell us what you know," blah blah blah. And the Penguin's like, "Wow, you guys are real stupid. You don't even know Spanish? Habla inglés, my guys." Like, it's so absurd, and you're like, I can't believe I'm watching this scene happen right now. This is so stupid. I love it.
I was talking to Zara on the way home from seeing the movie, and I was like, man, Colin Farrell's really Farrell, right? Really great as the Penguin. I was like, who's Colin Farrell? Look at a picture of Colin Farrell. She looks at the picture, and she's like, this guy's the Penguin? Great makeup.
Actually who I was gonna that was my next talking point, because God, he's so good in this movie. I mean, don't get me wrong. Every actor in this movie brings their A game. I love every single actor, every single performance. But just knowing what Colin Farrell looks like IRL and to see him as the Penguin and just the way he does his voice, and it's just so good. And I love how they call him Oz.
It's a transformative performance that Colin Farrell is doing, and it works spectacularly well. He's very good.
He's like the levity of the film.
I know we see him in suits throughout the movie, but I just cannot wait. I really hope they make another one with Colin Farrell as like the main baddie.
He's getting a show, my dude.
Ben, he has an HBO show coming.
Never mind, I'm getting that because I want to see more of him in the Penguin suit, wearing like the tuxedo, and I don't know, maybe getting the monocle, or maybe they go with the Batman Arkham City route, and he gets a beer bottle shoved in his eye. I don't know.
I want to see all I care about. We're gonna see the umbrella. That's all I care about.
Yeah,
we're gonna get the umbrella. The Oswald. Since we're on Oswald, there is I do want to highlight the chase sequence, through the car chase sequence.
That was hype.
The moment he's in that car, revving it, and you see the lights kind of turn on, brilliant. How they frame the chase as well, constantly looking over Oswald's car, and then looking directly at Oswald's car when we're at Batman's perspective. One of the things that they do in this movie that I really like is how there's a couple of moments where the camera, not actually, but it's like meant to be situated on the engine of the car, and the camera moves because the engine is moving. So like the engine's vibrating, and so it's moving the camera, and that's great stuff. Great little attention to details. Love everything. No notes.
I did see people say that this chase scene was way too long, and I have some problems with the movie, but like that is the opposite of a problem that I had. I was like, how can anyone dislike this? Like, I guess I'm just thinking of the Boba Fett chase scene. I'm like, this is immaculate, and I'm like, he's doing like the Penguin doesn't get collateral damage, and he's just like almost running people over, destroying shit.
This ends with a car exploding and then becoming a ramp that Batman jumps over. Brilliant.
Also,
brilliant.
That scene entirely practical. That the going through the fire, all practical.
Good. Brilliant. Love it. No notes. 10 out of 10.
So I couldn't easily count so many shots of this movie where I'm sitting there going, this is effing art. Like, obviously the trailer shot where he's walking from the car in the fire, the score is blaring and crescendoing, and Penguin's terrified.
I had to stop myself from cheering in this movie many times.
He looks at the side of the car.
I'm just like, ooh, that's art. There's another a really good scene. Oh, the scene where he gets the DA and it's out of focus, and he's taping the bomb to the DA. It's like, something horrible is happening. I was like, this is, even though you can't fully see, it's like, this is some art. This is some creepy art right here. Just this, and I'm sitting here going, man, I haven't had this good a feeling about this hopeful feeling about comic books and superhero films since the freaking Dark Knight.
I don't want to get into that discussion, but you did bring up something interesting. This film is a lot more hopeful than I expected it being from the trailers. The ending of this film ends on a very high note, a note that you're meant to feel like, oh, Gotham is a place that can be saved. This mission is not for naught. He is inspiring people, and I think that's really good.
I want you to talk because you haven't said much yet. But the thing, because you bring up the hopeful ending and stuff, like the whole marketing and like trailer and stuff, it's like, this is a Batman who's brutal and he's about vengeance. That's not what it's actually about. It's about that's who he thinks he needs to be. Mm-hmm. And at the end, God, dude, that shot at the end when it's like bright out and he's holding that kid, and I'm just like, he doesn't need to be hope. He doesn't need to be vengeance. He needs to be hope. And I'm like, wow, this is like the most optimistic Batman has ever been. Like in live action form, like even more than the Dark Knight. Like when he's like, I gotta save the people, be the bad guy. I'm like, this is the middle of the day. This is crazy. Like it's really something that we don't get to see in Batman, because like he's a man of the shadows. He doesn't always have to be that, and that's really important for Batman, because again, this is a guy who walks around with a 13-year-old sidekick. Like it's not just about the dark shadows. And it's really cool this movie explores that when you thought it was just going to be anger.
I want to instill fear in the criminals, but hope in the citizens of Gotham. Mm-hmm. So actually, you haven't said anything.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys have been saying. I really like and I'm not sure quite where to bridge from here.
We're talking.
No, I know. I really like the ending. I like that it's a whole journey for him of realizing that essentially like the same thing from the anime movie we talked about this, where he's trying to save the kid and the kid's screaming and crying because his costume is too scary, so he changes his costume, and Superman comments on it later. It's that same like vibe of I'm not trying to scare children.
Yeah.
And like coming to terms with what he means and what he represents in the city, and the way that they have that piece of shit incel say I am vengeance, knowing that it'll dig at Batman, and the way that like kind of cements his whole arc of it. The car chase scene is the best action scene, kind of the main action scene of the film, honestly, at such a interesting point in the structure of the film is where it is.
I will say this isn't a negative. None of the action, I think we saw a lot of the action in the trailers, which was unfortunate. None of the action outside of the car chase really blew me away because we saw a lot of it in the trailers. If I didn't see a lot of the like machine gun in the darkness shots in the trailer, I would have been more surprised by it. But I feel like a lot of the money shots we saw in the trailers, which again doesn't ruin the movie, but I'm like, I wish they would have hit a lot of that, because I think it's a lot of it's really good. I don't know if I would give any action scene outside of the car chase like a 10 out of 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what
but you know what I mean.
I get what you mean. I do get the idea that like the trailers did put in way more of the action that I feel like they should have.
Yeah.
But I don't agree. I would because every action scene for me hit very nicely. Especially the final one in the what's it called, arena.
Gotham Square, yeah.
Yeah, and that place when like, man, there's a bit where he like jumps out of the smoke and like tackles a dude. I'm like, Batman.
Yeah.
Really loved it all.
No, I thought they did a good job with the action piece. It's hard because like you're marketing a film where like honestly action isn't the point.
Yeah.
And like the point is that it's very a mystery. And that's present.
It's so character driven. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very character driven. To the film's benefit, it's the way I want it to be.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I like less is more in terms of the action. And that made all those moments at least hit. I felt like we had good breath between them.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that, even if we weren't seeing like the most amazing action. I felt like we were seeing good action.
Yeah, no, yeah, I didn't dislike it.
No, but I'm thinking of like what did we talk about recently where we were just kind of like it was very recent. We talked about a movie where we were just like all the action was fine.
Yeah.
The Matrix. It's the Matrix Resurrections where we talked about the action scene in the middle with everybody, and it's like it's all just
none of it was
serviceable in that. And I'm like, all the action here felt solid. It might not have been like crescendoing or like doing anything broad and big as much as like the car chase scene was, but it still felt really, really solid. Batman felt solid.
That's a really good good callback, because like I totally agree, because this film is much more character driven, much like The Matrix is Matrix Resurrection is more interested in the character work. This film is also, and so having the characters drive the mystery of it, because that is first and foremost what this movie is about, is the mystery, was very well done and very well paced.
I'm glad you said that, because speaking of mystery, Mag is in the chat. Hey bud, he said love the mystery of solving of why Riddler is doing what he's doing, and also he commented about anytime I hear his footsteps, it's like a cowboy is walking with spurs in a Western film.
Absolutely.
I love the weight of his footsteps.
Oh my god,
it sounds really good.
They're like 40-pound boots. It sounds like it's incredible.
It does. If I were to give a negative to this film, now I'm gonna also give this with a big asterisk along with it, because it could also have been what my physical state was, because I was also very tired, and this is a very long movie. Was that there are parts of the film where I did feel like it dragged, and I was lucky to stay awake through the whole film, but there are parts where I'm just like, can this please end so I can go to sleep?
That's
now that I was exhausted. If I went in this film fully rested, I might think differently. I want
to before you continue, I do want to chime in, because like I do 100% think that's it. That's a you thing, and not as like a anything negative, because like you told us before, you've had a long week, you didn't get a lot of sleep. My partner constantly falls asleep through shorter movies, and she was not falling asleep in this movie even once. I think this film, personally for me, does not have any fat. I think it's very well paced and very well made.
Megan was not hot on seeing the Batman, wanted to see it but wasn't hot on it, and also doesn't really like movies that go on too long. didn't feel that way about this one. Really enjoyed it more than she thought she would. She was genuinely surprised at how much she liked this film. I have to agree. I've thought about it backwards and forwards a lot of like, is there anything I think I would cut from this movie? And honestly, not really, no.
Yeah.
The closest you get for me personally is the Joker scene.
Sure.
That's for me personally. But I also really appreciate what Matt Reeves was saying about why he decided to put it in, because it's there's a lot of extensive conversation about it, and I highly recommend reading it. But he originally put it without that scene there, and he felt like the ending was wrong. And I ultimately, it boils down to him wanting the Joker's presence is meant to continue to present that Batman's job isn't finished. And that's why when you get to the final scene between him and Selina and he has to go back to Gotham, he can't go with her because you've just seen his job will never be finished. And I think that that's a fair point. The thing was, I think just the way the scene is structured, it felt a little post-creditsy scene in the movie for me. And that's one of the reasons why I wasn't crazy about it. Perhaps it would have been better if they had left the other scene he filmed originally in.
Where Batman talks to Joker.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, before hearing that explanation, I was actually not super hot on the Joker scene. It was cool. Like, you don't actually see him, and he only delivers it's like, oh yeah, they treat you like a clown. It's like, okay, yeah, that's the Joker.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just because.
But you can see him. You can see enough of him to know that his face is deformed. Love it.
Exactly. I do like that part, but at the same time, I feel like there's just too much Joker fatigue or Joker buildup. If that makes sense.
That is fair. Yeah.
I want to have a conversation about what I think my impression of what Matt Reeves had to say about Joker. That kind of, because I'm kind of like you, Ben. When I was watching, I'm like, I really didn't need that in this movie. I liked so much else, and like that, maybe because of the way it was structured, it felt too much like a tease up, and I was just like, really didn't vibe that in the movie. It didn't check with me, but I've started to reassess some of those feelings, and I want to get into that later when we're talking about like where this can go. But I want to stay focused on the film right now. But I really liked it. I really liked that. I think that you lose a character if you trim down from what we are, and because it is a character-driven piece, I wouldn't. Because I think the character you lose is honestly either you lose some stuff with Selina or you lose some stuff with Falcone. You lose one of them, and I wouldn't.
So let me tell you. And like maybe if we talk it through, I'll feel more positive on it. But right now, I am not hot on Alfred fake dying. It's the one part of the movie where I'm like, Alfred's barely in the movie enough for me to really get his character. Like, I get his character enough, right? I've read a lot of Batman comics. I can put it together. The movie doesn't give me enough for him to almost die and then not die and then not really be in the movie that much more. You know what I mean? And like him dying, and like I really do like the scene in the hospital, but like I don't think he needed to fake die. I don't think we needed to fake out to get that same scene. You know what I mean? That could have been a conversation they still had regardless. The fake out, I think it would have been better for the movie that they're trying to make if Alfred just would have died. Because again, he wasn't in the movie very much for me to care about his fake death. You know what I mean?
I understand, but also I want to say, okay, because one of the things I do want to praise this movie is that it knows the audience. It's like, we don't see the Waynes die. We don't see Thomas and Martha die.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Good fake out with the opening.
Yeah.
Yeah. No opening of saying the origin of Batman. We freaking know already, damn it. I think the reason
real quickly, sorry to interrupt, Ben, real quickly. I said after watching Joker that if I have to watch the Waynes die again, I'm going to shoot him myself. So thank goodness that we did not have to sit through that again.
Thank goodness. I feel like this movie is like, look, you know who Batman is, you know who Alfred is, you know their dynamic. This is a year 2 Batman. Alfred is still kind of on Bruce doing the Batman bit, but you know the relationship is there, and then you know
general audience members don't though. I read Batman. General audience members don't.
I would say okay. Maybe.
I think there's enough general audience assumption that they would know Batman's relationship with
my
Alfred.
mom.
Well, I don't know your mom.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't think there's enough character stuff to warrant him dying. Like, having to bring in previous knowledge for a character should never be a thing in comic book movies. You know what I mean? We always talk about that. And this is just my personal opinion. Like, obviously, you guys don't
So
agree.
Are you saying like you'd rather he died, or that
Yes,
they just
or
didn't
they
even go down that road?
Don't
at
even
all?
fake his death. Yeah, because it happened so early in the movie where I don't have the establishment for Alfred.
So I talked with Megan about this, and like I definitely did not want him to die, because this is a different Alfred than we've ever had.
Yeah.
Because he's a bodyguard, not a butler, and
Yeah.
that has changed their relationship and dynamic.
Yeah.
This is not a Alfred who feels in any way subservient to Bruce. He's an Alfred who feels like he's going to call Bruce on his shit,
And he trained him. Yeah.
and be more proactive with him, rather than kind of apologetic and then commentary after the apology.
I love their relationship. I don't like that they fake killed him.
I'm working my way up.
Sorry.
So this is me saying, like, I absolutely did not want him to die, because I don't think that this movie could have serviced his character enough in any form for what they were doing to justify a death of the character in this film, because I want more of this new relationship we've never had before.
Yes.
When it comes to the fake dying, I almost agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But what changed it for me was when Robert Pattinson delivers the piece about, I didn't think I could feel that fear.
Okay.
I didn't think I could feel the fear that I felt that night. I have done all of this to get over that it would never be a part of me. I could not be touched by it until tonight.
Okay.
When I thought it was going to be you.
It does kind of change the character's direction.
And I think because I don't think it services Alfred's character very well. I acknowledge that, and it still makes me questionable of that plot decision. However, I do think it is critical for Bruce, because this is a Bruce who is pushing Alfred away actively up to that point in the film, and something had to shift for him to bring him in, and it wasn't going to be the same monumental shift that he also makes as a character later of, I need to change how I treat the city.
Mm-hmm.
That happens in steps with his character throughout the film, and one of those steps is, I am afraid if I lose Alfred, I need to change how I behave with Alfred.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am afraid if I lose the city, I need to change how I behave with the city.
Yeah.
I think that it is a bridge to his journey by the end of it.
Okay.
And therefore it made me more accepting, though a little questionable of exactly how they went about it, but more accepting of the decision to put him in that kind of jeopardy.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I still feel I
think if they hadn't done that moment, that specific moment where he goes for like 2 minutes about, I conquered it in all these ways.
Yeah.
And I thought it could not touch me, and now it did. I think without that specific inflection from him and them holding hands by the end of it, and that being like such a difference from where we start with such a cold shoulder Bruce to him at the beginning, I don't think it would land.
That makes sense.
I don't think it fully justifies the choice.
I feel if the same moment would have happened an hour later, I probably would feel stronger about it, because again, I think it happens too early in the movie. Yeah. But that does alleviate some of the stress. But
it services the problem is, I think the problem with the scene is that no matter what way you slice it, it really only services one character more than the other. I wish it was servicing both, and I agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It does create some really interesting tension when he realizes that he's the next victim, and you as the audience are like, well, he can't be, but somebody can be. Get to the damn tower, Bruce.
And then it gets to, Alfred died, but then he didn't.
Hold up, let me go. I've been chomping a bit for this. So one of the things why I like that scene quite a bit is because Bruce wasn't there. When I love how it's shot, making it seem like he's gonna get there and open the door, and he sees Alfred with a bomb. Mm-hmm. But when he's on the phone and he talks to Dolly, and Dolly's like, "Sir, it already happened." I don't know why, but for a split second, I thought maybe Dolly was in on the take, and she was like, "No, I planted this bomb. I'm killing him." But then it's like, when you see the smoke from the tower, it's like, oh, Alfred. I see him throw the bomb away, and he doesn't die, but you see the damage, and Bruce is too late. In the very beginning of the movie, he does say, "I can't be everywhere." He can't beat every crime, which is one of the best things about that opening scene. It's like, which crime is he going to? Or can he make all of them? He does do a lot of stuff in one night. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he knows that he's still just a man, a very powerful, strong man, he can't do everything. And it's to me, it's a very human moment that he's messed up.
I will contend that my biggest problem with it, I think, honestly, is that I think it's too stupid of Alfred to open the package.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have preferred that Alfred was doing something else in the same room, and you saw the package sitting there, and put off 2 and 2 together, and it went off, but he wasn't near it, so that's how he did okay with dealing with it. But it's that an Alfred who's not a butler, who's a bodyguard, who was trained and like has some awareness and knows that they've been going after Riddler and knows what kind of dangerous criminal is, gets a package that says for Bruce Wayne's eyes only, doesn't
and then opens it.
even somewhat get trepidatious about that, is maybe a little questionable on that character's part. And that's the part that really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, why would he open this?
Sure.
Can I say one of my favorite things about Alfred in this movie?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with any of your negatives. I don't think I have any negatives, so I'll stay quiet whenever you guys talk about negatives. But Alfred has a moment where he helps with the cipher. So and it's and I love the fact that he's like, yeah, no, this is kind of like a puzzle, and he's like helping Bruce he's like actively helping Bruce with the investigation, using his own smarts, teaching Bruce in a way that Bruce learns some new things with the riddles. I do really like that relationship that they have. Like, he is not okay with what he's doing, but he's like, oh no, this is what this means, and this is what this did, and I like that.
My favorite thing about that is that while Alfred will be unhappy that Bruce is doing what he's doing, he also can't help but want to A, solve the puzzle, but B, also try and solve the mystery, and stop a killer. Like, he can't resist; it's too appealing, and I think that's a good dynamic for them.
Yeah, it is. I do like the Earth 1, Earth 2, or whatever it is, like we're like
2.
Earth 2, where it's like, oh, I'm ex-SAS of British Special Forces, and like I trained Batman. I'm like, that's all right. I like this offer.
Yeah,
I really, really like that this movie opens with Bruce amongst the people, in his little jacket and in his Times Square with his ball cap, like very like hiding out amongst them. I think that works really, really well. I like that's the vibe of him getting his feel that carries over from the year one comic.
Yeah, this is not Playboy Bruce Wayne yet. He is still in his emo phase. I'm still thinking about my sad parents.
Yeah,
this is year 2 Batman. Now,
they say that a lot.
Yeah, another thing about this movie I actually really love, and as a kid, I remember as a kid, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I'm watching superhero films, is when you see Robert Pattinson on screen, he's in the bat suit a good 80% of the movie.
Yeah.
He is Batman more than he is Bruce Wayne.
Not a lot of Bruce.
Whereas a lot of other movies, the actor playing Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne more of the time than they are Batman. Which, when I was a kid, it's like, I came here to see the suit. I came here to see the superhero stuff. I mean, of course, as a kid, as an adult, I have changed my mind. But as I'm watching this, it's like, no, this is really good. I'm seeing Batman, a lot of Batman. This is what I want.
Bruce and Batman are the same person in this movie.
There's a thing that they do that Sparks talked about with the hoodie and things like that, where he uses that to kind of to move within the shadows of people, right? He's moving amongst the people to like, then he like will expel that outfit that he wears, the hoodie and the cap, like, and then he'll become Batman in that area, almost kind of like Spider-Man in a bit, but it's kind of more of a, like, a dark, brooding, sneaky way. And I thought that was really cool, especially when it pays off with the third time that he goes to the Iceberg Lounge. The first 2 times he's like, do you know who I am? Both as Batman and the Bruce Wayne. And then he sneaks in and closes the door. Very funny moment, but like having him like, I'm not going to go in as Batman. I'm not going in as Bruce Wayne. I'm sneaking in, and then I'm going to become Batman in there. Great. I really like that.
As Bruce Wayne to become Batman.
Oh, first of all, never in my effing life did I think I would see Tweedledee and Tweedledum in a live-action Batman. Unbelievable. Those twins are so funny, so dweeby and stupid. I can't believe it. Super funny. They just get progressively more beat up as the movie goes along. Love it. Iceberg Lounge, great. Club below 44 or whatever, even greater. Penguin, 44 below Penguin, no complaints. Yeah, whatever.
Easy, sweetheart.
Dude, I truly, like, I've never been, especially after Peacemaker, I've never been more excited to watch a Penguin-led TV show in my life. Oh my God, give it to me today. Zoe Kravitz, love of my life. Catwoman, love of my life in comics. She's so good in this movie. The thing at the end where she's like, oh, I'm going somewhere else. I'm like, I swear to God, if you're not in the next movie, I'm going to blow my brains out. What are you talking about? Get back to Gotham, honey. her and Robert Pattinson have such good chemistry. It's baloney. It's so crazy. Her and Falcone have such good chemistry. John Turturro maybe like the standout of the movie, surprisingly, because he's just like, wow, I'm really cool and evil, baby. I'm like, oh my god, I love you. All the characters in this movie.
I'm
like,
so glad
right
he got
out of the
to,
comics.
I'm so glad he got to shine and that he was kind of like held back, and then started slowly coming to the forefront. And I love that he never really has a true confrontational moment with Batman.
No.
When he does, it's with Selina and it's with Bruce, but never really with Batman. And I thought that was great.
It's cool because like you don't realize how involved with the plot he is until the end. Where like it's all about him. It's always been like him, and it's like he's the ultimate master. This is how you do a really good like villain reveal, because it's like they don't make a big deal out of it. He is the man in the shadows because you're not supposed to know he's there, and like he's just gradually showing up and like, what's up, sweetheart? And, like,
the reveal that like. Who cares who the mayor is? Falcone's the mayor of Gotham City. Everything goes through Falcone, and like how all the pieces come together of like the rebuilding fund or whatever, it's the renewal fund. How that was co-opted after the Wayne's death. Like there is a sense that like Riddler's got the wrong information. He thinks that the Waynes were in on it, but they weren't actually. There was a mistake, and like revealing all that and how like the renewal fund was bastardized after Wayne died, and how it was Falcone that did it. All of that good solid stuff and good solid, like we put the pieces in the movie and then it all comes together at the end.
I really like the section where Bruce is learning things about his parents because I like that this is one where we didn't go the full blown like they were bad people. Yeah. That's not what we're doing. But what we are saying is that they were fallible. And
they're human. Yeah.
They've always been perfect to Bruce and to the audience up to this point in every previous iteration.
Yeah.
But here we can be like, especially after your parents pass away, you start to look at them and see more of the human side of them and who they were outside of being the relationship that existed for you. Yeah. And the fact that that is a part of Bruce's journey in this is really great. That it's something where he has to reckon with like, my father was a good man, but not a perfect man.
Yeah, he made a mistake, which is unfortunately a really big mistake that cost someone their life. It's so cool. Like they didn't have to go this far, but they did like, oh, you have the Waynes and the Arkhams, like the founding families of Gotham. Like, sweet, you're doing the Gates of Gotham, that original cool stuff. Then they made his mom an Arkham. And I'm like, oh, you're really just like going hardcore.
That's from Earth 1 too.
That's great shit. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Again, like, this is like a quote unquote realistic movie, but unlike The Dark Knight, like this feels like a comic book.
Yes.
Like this is all comic book shit that's happening. It's like it's allowed to be cheesy, like in a serious way.
I love the Nolan films. Real quickly, sorry, I love the Nolan films. Well, two of them, but like there is a sense that even Batman Begins are ashamed to be based on comic books. Not like whether or not they are. But that is the sense that you get because they're trying to they feel like they're trying to elevate the material. This film was not. This film was not ashamed of its roots at all. It embraces its roots, and that's very refreshing.
All the comic book roots it took. Like when we were talking about the how Martha's in Arkham, and it's like, hey, that's Earth 1. They're doing stuff with the comics. Or when Selina gives Falcone the scratches, like in the Long Halloween.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, this movie is taking so many great comic book influences and it's not afraid to show. It's like we took these scenes or these like this mythos from these selects or from these books because they're really, really good. And I was like, this is how
real quick. I don't think that this I hate the analogy of like the realism thing that keeps getting tossed around with this, because like I don't think this Batman is grounded in reality. I do think the Nolans were. Yeah. I don't think that this Batman is grounded in reality. I think the characters are grounded in an emotional reality, and that's important and that's shining through. But this is still a lot of comic book shit happening in this movie, and I'm really grateful for it because that's still what I want going forward. I don't want us like
it's the Tom King Batman
pulling back the way we did with Nolan towards that, like it's gotta be like kind of real.
Yeah, there was a sense that after Batman Begins, really like the world was kind of open that you could go into a more fantastical route, but they didn't. They decided to double down on the realism, and they went in that direction. This film, it could go either way, and honestly, I'm happy to go whichever way is possible, whichever way you want. But it does feel like in this world, Mr. Freeze can show up. Penguin can have an umbrella gun. Like the more fantastical elements of Batman can exist in this world because it's not afraid that it's based on a comic book. It is, like Marc said, grounded in emotional realism, but it is still a comic book world that we are inhabiting.
The scene after. Sorry, hold really quick. So Grayson's in the chat. Wanted to pop in and just say I didn't get to go see it and don't want spoilers. I'll check in later.
Get out.
Go, dude.
Get the hell out.
Grayson already left. He probably didn't even hear us bring him up.
Yeah, you gotta bail right now. But yeah, at the scene at the end of the movie, I feel like I would be totally fine with seeing Superman fly down and be like, "You okay?" I could feel that could happen in this world.
I mean,
maybe not yet.
I don't want it yet.
Now, not to say I didn't want it, but the reason why I say that is because I could feel that would be a totally normal thing. That Superman were to fly down and look at Bruce and be like, "Yo, you need help? I can help you out with this one thing." I could feel like that's real, but if they decide, obviously, if they do go down this route and they decide to just keep it a Batman thing and not include any other DC heroes, okay, that's fine. That's your choice.
I don't think we'll see, real quickly, Ben, to your point, I don't think we'll ever see other DC heroes in this universe. If Matt Reeves continues on, it is just going to be Bat characters. But to mine, Sparks, and Ryan's point, it is really nice to be sitting in a place where any Bat villain can appear, even the more fantastical ones.
Yeah.
So Patrick Willems did a tweet that prepped me for what happens in the movie. But there's a point in the movie where they bring up Hush stuff and they bring up Thomas Elliot and they go to a mansion. I'm like, is this movie secretly a Hush movie and we didn't know it? And then it's not. Thank God it wasn't. Because like Patrick said, this isn't a spoiler, but like they do Hush stuff that they don't really do it. So I was prepped, but like watching that movie, I was like, oh my God, like this is like it felt hushy for a second. I'm like, okay, they're not doing that. But like saying name Thomas Elliot, it's like, man, that's comic book shit. It's just when it's done right and done like they just implement it, it feels cool and natural.
Well, they mentioned Edward Elliot. That's Thomas's dad, right?
It's Thomas's dad, yeah.
So like the second I saw Elliot, I was like, hold up, Hush? Are we getting Hush?
Yeah, and then they've been put up on the broadcast thing, big Hush, and I'm like, that's silly, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like all of the performance in this. We've already talked about a few of them. Selena Kyle, also great. Really so love good. Zoe Kravitz. I love
great vulnerability.
I love the effect of losing her friend, her partner on her. When we find her in the back, that's such a good, powerful moment. I think the phone voicemail is chilling.
Oh my God,
you hear it.
Can't believe they played that whole thing. That's terrifying.
And the way it builds up to her taking on Falcone, there's a lot of great stuff. Jeffrey Wright is Ryan and I talked about it after. Like he's not necessarily doing anything amazing, but I think his dynamic with Robert Pattinson's Bruce is really, really good.
Yeah,
really good. I really love his friendly nature. I do want to see more of him as this.
The scene that's in your background when they're talking, you gotta get out of here, man. They're gonna.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's really
the
good.
way he's like, you gotta get out of here, man.
And like, you're gonna go through that door. You're gonna use this key.
You gotta
punch
me, man.
You gotta punch me. You gotta do it. Like I really like his dynamic.
You could have pulled that punch. I did.
I'm too strong for you.
I really like that pull when he sorry real quickly when their dynamic is so good. Like when Batman drives up into the car, they're about to go up like Batman drives into the driveway of the building that has the skylight. But like when he goes like, "You didn't do that? I thought you did that." Really good.
I want to bring up 2 points based off that. One, this is the coolest, best integration of Batman with cops we've had in live action.
Hands down.
Really, really like it. I really like all the different engagements that he has with them, both with them kind of liking him, being afraid of him,
Martinez's whole arc,
upset with him, like all of that I think is really, really good. I really, really enjoy it. I think that this was so much not what we got. Like this was a Batman who is uncomfortable with his place around police, even though he's untrusting of them. He's uncomfortable because he feels like he's in a weird space with them, which is just a big stark contrast from like I think the only other real presence we get of Batman with cops, which is in the Nolan trilogy,
Dark Knight
Rises, and where they all kind of just like listen to him.
Yeah.
After Batman Begins, they just listen to him.
And Dark Knight Rises doesn't count because all of the cops are put underground because the city's been taken over. So like they have to work together as like a resistance, not as like real cops of the city.
Right.
Absolutely. This felt like it felt so much like it wasn't just about the character of Batman. It really is about Gotham and everyone in it, and how everyone from the citizens to the police deal with Batman, beginning and end of it.
Much like we talked about when we talked about the Spider-Man Raimi films, Gotham is a character in a way that I don't think it's ever been in a Batman film before.
Yeah.
It's had personality, but I don't think it's been a character. Gotham is a character in this, and not just a damsel in distress character.
God, the Times Square shot where it's like all the LCD screens, and I'm like, yeah, baby, that's what a Gotham City would look like. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's done very, very well. I really like it, even though we get like weird Marlon Brando cop. Which Megan just could not take seriously.
Also, nostalgia critic thug, the skull who looks like just like Doug Walker.
The Gotham as a character thing is so like the way they've structured Gotham. It doesn't feel like it's a real place in America. Like it feels like this Gothic architecture lives in this living, breathing city. That feels completely original to something that we've ever seen before.
Really, really love it. Really love. On a different note, like Gotham as a character is done very, very well. Really appreciate it. Pattinson does a great job with the differentiation, very subtle between Bruce Wayne and Batman in voice. I love his Batman voice. I love his Batman voice because it's not ridiculous. This is pretty much the closest to the animated series we've ever gotten.
Yeah, it's just a little deeper. Yeah, I do like this version of Bruce Wayne, and I know it's not like contentious online, but like I know a lot of people are like, there's not a lot of Bruce Wayne, and the version we get. He's just a sad emo, and I'm like, yeah, this is a different take. This is still young Bruce Wayne figuring out Batman and figuring out himself. He doesn't need to put on the Playboy persona because he's not the dude. I mean, he is the dude like doing Bruce Wayne industry stuff, right? But like, I guess it just doesn't bother me. Like, it's okay to be like, he can grow into that Playboy.
I don't even care if he does or doesn't. Like, I what I got from the trailers was this: we were going to see an emo Bruce Wayne. I saw an emo Bruce Wayne. I liked an emo Bruce Wayne. I wanted an emo Bruce Wayne. I got it. I'm good.
Yeah.
I think
10 out of 10, no notes.
I think more than anything, like I didn't even necessarily like go to the emo description. Like it felt like a Bruce who was stagnated by the like truly not just like, oh, we talk about it and oh, it's the thing that made me Batman and now I'm Batman and that thus everything I do is righteous because I'm doing it because of that initial crime that was done. This is a Bruce in the live action film that was traumatized and stagnated by the death of his parents and continues to be that person up to this moment. And it is because of the events of this film that he begins to change into something else. But up to this point, he is just every punch is directly him trying to get back at the person who killed his parents specifically. And it's very much feels like it's actually driven by that in the character. And he is slowly in this film getting to break free of being that person. That's why he has like these archaic ideas of how much you can trust other people, what is right and what is wrong, where the line is, that the line is his concept of like black and white, good and evil is very childish. Yes. He is not a complex thinker in terms of like where you cross on what side. This is a Bruce who like, regardless of those guys robbing the bank at the beginning of the movie, he would have beat up the guy who was just doing graffiti if he was just doing graffiti, which is not necessarily the Bruce who we get to by the end of the film.
That's true.
Bruce who understands more nuance in like by virtue of having connected with Selena and learning things about how she's had to live and being checked for his privilege. Like the fact that happens in this movie is great.
Hell yeah.
You talk a little bit about his ideals. I really appreciate and how refreshing it is, especially with the last iteration of Batman and all the discussion with it, that this is a Batman who is fighting for his ideals. It is a Batman who has more than one discussion about we don't use guns, we don't kill people. That's not what we do. We don't cross that line. And one of my favorite moments in the movie is when they're on the rooftop with Selena, and Selena's about to kill the crooked cop, and he knocks the gun out. And as they're arguing, the camera once cuts to the gun because they're talking about the gun and they're both having that discussion. And I really liked amplifying that idea of this Bruce and finally seeing a Batman true to the comics fighting for like, we don't cross that line. We just don't cross that line.
Right.
I like
it's
that
really
a lot.
Nice. It was really nice. And again, like you said, like multiple times, like it could have been once, like to acknowledge like, oh, Batman doesn't kill, but like multiple times it's like, yo, we don't cross that line. We are better than them. We have to be. And I'm like, man, Batman's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Right. Just
cool,
appreciated it.
We haven't talked about Ave Maria very much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the mother effing Riddler and his 500 followers.
Yeah.
God, that's the Riddler is so scary, but truly my favorite scene is him just like, hey guys, I'm back checking in. Shit's about to get crazy. Look me up. Like, that is, again, kind of like Scream, what Scream did earlier in the year with Reddit stuff. Like, so real. What a real villain this guy was.
Watching my favorite thing about Riddler is that even when he's not in this crazy getup, he's still scary. Like when he's in Arkham and he's talking to Batman and he starts saying Bruce Wayne, and one of the greatest reveals of the movie, that Riddler may know who Batman is under the mask, only to reveal he doesn't know. We almost got him, didn't we?
Bruce is so narcissistic.
It's so, and it's a good trailer misreveal too, because the trailer makes it seem like the Riddler knows.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene is so good because he keeps talking, he keeps saying Bruce Wayne, and Bruce is like, this mother effer doesn't know. And then he starts getting closer and he's like, oh, you don't have any idea. You're not as smart as I thought you were. It's so
having Bruce kind of like stand there in the shadows, having Batman stand there in the shadows looking at him, especially after he says Bruce Wayne, and like talking, like addressing Batman as Bruce Wayne, or so we think. And have Batman kind of like his eyes, because he's in the shadow, he's allowed to emote a little bit. His eyes kind of like widen a bit, but he doesn't want to break that Batman cool, that facade. And then when it's revealed, when Riddler says, "We almost got him, you and me. We almost got Bruce Wayne." That's when Batman like takes a breath and moves out of the shadows.
The audience takes a sigh with him too.
Yes,
like,
oh, dude, that I was gonna say that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, because the trailer made us think that Riddler knew. And the second he goes, Bruce, like you said, Bruce Wayne, and he says over and over, it's like, oh my God, he knows what's going on. And then and also you see the truth unmasked. It's like, oh my God, he's gonna post that Bruce Wayne's Batman. Oh man, this is gonna be a really short career for you. And he's like, yeah, we almost got him. Too bad, huh? I was like, Matt Reeves, you slime mother ever.
You're very right. Like everything you guys are saying about the scene is very good. Like I like that too, the misdirect that you think that Bruce is, and it turns out that Bruce is just so narcissistic that he was convinced that's what it was actually all about. It is good because it is at the same time that he's about to tell Bruce, like, you're just not as smart as I thought you were. At the same time, the Riddler's not as smart as Bruce thought he was too. Ultimately, the Riddler does get like an upper hand, but so does Bruce on him. I thought that was really good. Paul Dano's really, really great. I'm glad that he's willing to crack his voice and go as hard as he did. And he in that interrogation scene is more of like what the comics are. He is allowed to bring that cartoonishness in his mania to it that allows me to be like, this is not realistic. This is not realistic, but it is
Ava Maria.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
Really well integrated into the film. Yeah.
The Riddler has a gang. Again, like the gang stuff of Gotham is so fun. Like all the dudes in Saran wrap love it.
This is one of my favorite things is that he has all those followers and like 12 dudes show up and I'm like, how realistic?
Yeah.
How realistic? They're all like, they're committed, but they're like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I did have plans tonight for, I don't know if I want to drive all the way out to Gotham.
Talking about the Riddler, there's this thing that I really like in the comics about the Riddler, that he is so obsessed with the fact that Batman is smarter than him. He just can't believe it. He's driven him insane to the fact that Batman is smarter than him. And he just doesn't, he's like, I'm smarter than Batman. I have to constantly prove that I'm smarter than Batman. And that's kind of where my favorite Riddler lies. And that's what Matt Reeves brought from the comics to his reinvention of Riddler, is that when he can't stand the fact that Batman could be smarter than him. It cannot be true. And it kind of drives him even loopier towards the end of the film.
Well, what's fun about it is like the Riddler thinks Batman's on his side for most of the time.
Yes.
That's what's so ridiculous. And then it's like, I'm actually fighting you. And he's like, I thought we were BFFs.
Even more specifically, like the fact that the movie is willing to directly tackle, like, this is the death of the mobster era and the beginning of the supervillain era, and it is because of Batman. And like it directly tackles that, like, I was inspired by what you were doing. And that is going to be the thing, like, Batman up the ante and the villains are happening in response. And so Batman has to find a different way to respond to it, but he's already triggered something. I really like that. I really like that this puts a whole button on like Falcone and the mobsters having run things. That we get the mention of Salvatore Maroni and everything. We get the implications of everything that ran before.
It is so
and
great.
then we come to an end of it, and like Cobblepot's going to rise out of this.
Yeah.
The Riddler and the Joker are going to rise out of this. Whoever else is going to come is going to rise out of this.
There's an entire plot about like a comic book character, Maroni, and he's not even in the movie. It's so great that like he's just constantly referenced and mentioned, and you just have to keep up like, oh, this is an old mobster who blah 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 blah, right? Like that's cool that like they didn't do flashbacks with some famous actor. It's just a dude you got to keep remembering his name. That's really great.
They do so much good work with all the corrupt police stuff too. I think they do a great job of walking the line of like, you know, like who is on it, who isn't. Like not everybody's bad. I really love that you got all the people who's like not all the cops work for you when they capture Falcone.
Yeah.
But I also think they do a great reveal, especially for Gordon. That like the thing that I think is going to shake Gordon out of everything. That is so crucial to his character is the moment where he finds out that the biggest bust that's ever happened in Gotham's history wasn't even real, that they just took over the operation instead and just called it a bust, but it didn't even exist.
And Falcone runs it.
The drop heads, great concept of like just a very simple, like giving us the idea of a drug, but not like directly tackling it, just something unique and that we're able to pick up on. And like the concept of like, this is the worst thing that's happening to the people of Gotham is these drops. These drugs are the things that like you get like a glimpse of like how they are and how burnt out they are when you're in the orphanage that's been abandoned and you see them. Gordon refers to them as drop heads. You know, like this is something really bad and that has been pervasive and a problem of what's created like Gotham's current situation.
Oh yeah, the opening bank robber guy has a drop head, like his mask. And I'm like, oh, look at that drop. Are they enemy?
I really want to see this movie again.
I do too. Honestly, the only reason I couldn't see it again is because it's 3 hours long, and I'm like, man, that's also trailers, and I gotta get there, and I'm like, man.
Yeah, I would love to see this movie again when I'm fully rested and not hanging out for dear life thanks to the caffeine in my cherry Coke. But this movie's just great. I love this movie.
I have a couple of notes I want to quick fire like Sparks does. Taking Sparks's bit. I love how what?
My Sparks notes?
Sparks notes. I really like the use of the grappling hook. The fact that it's connected to the arm and how he uses it. Great grappling hook stuff. He even uses it to catch the dude from falling off the building. Love it. Great. This has my favorite thing in Batman comics that I love so much, which is that Wayne Tower has bat ears. This has a Wayne Tower with bat ears. Thank you, Matt Reeves. I got it. I'm happy about it.
Oh, I want to bring up a note. When he's about to jump off the building and he's like, oh shit, all right, let's do this, and he does this zip, and you're like, what's going on? And then he turns it into a squirrel wingsuit. It's so good.
I really love that this was a Batman who was intimidated by that jump. Instead of like being totally cool and just doing it. Like
I imagine
he was like,
I imagine he hasn't done this yet.
Yeah.
This is his first like, I'm really gonna jump off this building like this.
And he hits the bus.
Yeah, that impact might have been too extreme with how like that dude would have been hurt, man. Come on. That's like Harry Osborn in Spider-Man.
Well, he would have, but fortunately, this armor is built with a bendable mask, like the locked-in one, like Dark Knight. So he's able to like take that hit.
He can,
I love how bendy the mask is. That it can move of the collar. This is my favorite Batmobile. This is my new favorite Batmobile in live action. I love everything about it. The mirror sequence in the beginning of the movie when he's looking in the rear mirror at Gotham City as he's driving away. It bookended with him looking at Selena driving away. Mwah, cinema. Love it. No notes.
They did a Fast and Furious ending. Love it.
We knew this was the case. Stagecraft continues to be a very exciting new technology for filmmakers to use. This used it very well. I'm happy to see it utilized in a big budget blockbuster. Love it.
It's like The Volume. Some of the scenes where he's on top, like on a building, and there's like they're looking out of the view with like the beautiful orange sunset. Not real.
Yeah, that's
incredible.
That's what they do in The Mandalorian. Like as Ryan said, The Volume. It's the LED screens and is now making its way into films. Which weird that it happened the other way, that it went from TV to films. But still really cool. It still continues to be a very exciting piece of technology for me that filmmakers are using and utilizing. I'm happy to see it in this movie.
Yeah, like listening to interviews, a lot of this movie was done on sets and sound stages, and it doesn't show. It's a really well made movie, like for being like a big city movie.
Yeah.
Love it.
Doesn't
let's
feel
talk about-
claustrophobic.
Yeah. Let's talk about the crazy ending of turning Gotham City into no man's land. Instead of it being an earthquake, it's a flood. Now Gotham is just a ruined city, basically, and now the king
partially anyway,
partially
a part of it.
Yeah. So the kingpin of crime, Penguin's probably gonna take over. You got that beautiful shot of him looking over the city. Really interesting place to put your Batman after his first movie.
Yeah.
Like really setting up the stakes of like, wow, you're like so many criminals are gonna pop up. It's going to be so interesting.
That's such a good point, because it is such an interesting place to put your Batman in the first movie. And the first movie we see, whether or not it's an experienced Batman or not, it is very interesting to go that route this first time around. And what it does is it creates such a bigger emotional impact of Bruce's character change than anything else would have, anything smaller scale would have. Well, it would have been there. It creates such a big, powerful moment when he's helping get the mayor out, and then the kid reaches for his hand, and he's leading the people with the red flare through the water. Like, beautiful, powerful button on that emotional arc, and just great.
And importantly representational of who Batman is, because he just had the shit kicked out of him, plugged himself up with some venom, and then cut an electrical cord and dropped himself into the water.
That was green, baby. That was green.
I love everything. Like, look, obviously Robert Pattinson didn't do the stunt where he swing shotted over, where he Spider-Man over to the wire. Love that bit where he's just like, I gotta do this. This is what I do. I gotta save all these people, because if that thing falls, kills everyone in that water.
I'm just saying,
cuts the line.
Could have just cut a little under, so he could have held on. I'm just.
But then it's not as dramatic.
The electricity makes it like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you see like a flash of the electricity that makes him lose. Yeah, great. Oh, I like this movie a lot, guys.
There was one part where Fan was like, "Why is it always raining in Gotham?" It's like the drama.
It's Gotham. It's like Seattle.
It's Gotham,
raining, right? I don't know. Yeah, man. Again, like I can't get over like just how hopeful, and like the final shots of the movie are in daylight, and it's a little girl like
they're in specifically dawn.
Dawn
of a new hope.
Of justice. That little girl reaches for Batman, like, don't leave me, you are the hero. And I'm like, man, this, like, it's really cool, because like it's, again, Batman, like, traditionally you just don't think about him in the daytime. That's like a Bruce Wayne thing. And this Batman can be more than that. Like, so many comics have shown us that.
I think they did a great job, just bouncing back a little bit, I think they did a great job of still acknowledging like Selina's history as a woman of the night, but by doing it via her mother. I thought was a really good choice. The turn to making her Falcone's daughter, I thought was really good. That is in the Long Halloween new special that came out, that it's implied that she is Falcone's daughter. Apparently, I just heard about this, that Jeff Loeb's newest piece following up on the Long Halloween did imply that she not directly state but heavily implied that she was Falcone's daughter.
Not canon.
Either way, this was still a great choice for this film, because it created that connective tissue and relationship that I think was really powerful and dynamic.
And he's so savage and gross. Like, the best bad guy's like, you're making me kill you. And I'm like, what an ass. I love it.
I loved his performance.
He's so like, chill, and like he's a horrible person.
No, he was Falcone, not Joe Chill.
Oh, there's a great Joe Chill reference, because like maybe it was Maroni, maybe it was Falcone, maybe it was some random mugger, and those are all real things that could have happened. Like, that's cool.
Because Alfred says, like, I've spent every day trying to find out the truth of what happened, and we'll never know for sure, but I strongly think it was Falcone.
I really like that change for Alfred for this, because this is not an Alfred who, like Bruce, who was a boy, just feels like, man, if only I'd done da 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 da. It was literally his job to protect them. And he failed. And that is a different impact and weight that Alfred has been carrying this whole time, and I really, really like that.
True. Oh, the opening shot again with the mayor, and you see the flash of the Riddler's eyes. Real horror shit. Sorry, Doctor Strange, you're not gonna get scarier than that. No way. That's the opening of the movie too, and the misdirect of like the Riddler using the goggles and then Batman using the goggles. I'm like, oh, Batman's also creepy.
Right.
Batman's a creeper in this movie. He's creeping on Selina Kyle the entire time.
And he tells her too.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, like, you're admitting
he owns it.
It's amazing.
We hardly ever get off of Batman's point of view. Very rarely in the movie, maybe 3 or 4 times, do we. And I think that was such a bold choice. Just constantly keep us on the same level, and we're not omniscient when we leave his point of view. We only know the information that Batman knows at all times. We're constantly going through the story with Batman.
Yeah.
I
could compliment so many things about this movie from top to bottom. Something we haven't brought up at all. I think we very loosely alluded to it. Incredible score. Michael Giacchino's incredible score.
Man,
I listened to the score while reading our book club, and I was like, God damn, this fits any Batman book.
So yeah, the Batman score itself, it's incredible, and there's not very much there's not a lot of music in the movie. There's like 3 tracks that they use over and over again, which is not a bad thing. But I love Selina's track because it's like high strings. Love it. Batman's track's great. Actually using Nirvana in it works really well. Transitioning into the Batman theme,
the thing that's so incredible about what Giacchino did is that he created a main foundation of what the theme was, but it's utilized with different instruments in different ways and in different lengths and stretches and tempos, depending on what is happening with who. Because it's not just Batman's theme, it's the Batman's theme in the sense of it is also the theme of Gotham. So sometimes it is the theme that is representational of something happening in Gotham, and it's played differently. So it is those same notes that you're hearing, but they're played out in different ways.
When he's in the police station, it's the same Batman theme, but it's more acoustic. It's an acoustic guitar, so it's softer. It's good thoughts. Good music, man. I also listen to it a lot at work, and it's mostly just the same da 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 for 6 hours. But I'm like, I can do it all day. I don't care. It's really good.
One of my favorite notes, real quick on the Batman theme. One of my favorite notes about it is that the what you know, which is the bum 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 bum, is very good. The bells, the big church bells that are behind it, is what seals it for me. That's such a gothic tone to it that adds this so much weight of whether it's the weight of the city or the weight of Batman is so good.
I don't have much else to say. The feeling. This movie is incredible. This is the same feeling I felt after Batman Begins. I'm like, this movie's so good, I cannot wait for the next one. Because if this one is this good, and this is the base of it, where can you go from here? And I'm like,
I'm so glad we're already getting the HBO Max spinoff.
Yeah, they believe in it so much, and I think for good reason. Everyone involved, delivered.
And Matt Reeves is involved in every step of these things, and I hope that Warner Bros. Continues to be good partners for him. They'll continue to work on this franchise. I hate to see him leave. I think Matt Reeves is batting 1,000. I've seen every one of his movies. They're all great. Cannot wait for more of this.
I do briefly want to touch on where we think things go from here. I real quickly want to mention Mag's comment, which is I thought Chill even appeared at the funeral. I think I know who Mag's referring to.
It's the guy who's talking to Bruce for that can be implied. It could be Joe Chill.
It could be.
That's what I thought too.
We probably never will. I really appreciated what Matt Reeves was saying about the Joker. So for anyone who didn't read into it, what he was clarifying is he really doesn't know when the Joker comes up. In his mind, the Joker is not the next main villain. That's not the intention of the tease, which might bum some people out when that movie comes around, because I'm sure that's what a lot of people took away from it, because we're used to that kind of post-credits setup. But what he said triggered something in me specifically where I'm like, I kind of hope the Joker never is the main villain, honestly. And that's not to say I don't want to see the Joker again. What I think would be great is if the Joker has about the same presence as Falcone, or maybe even to a lesser extent Cobblepot in this film, in future ones, where it's just the Joker exists. He's not necessarily the main thing. In fact, honestly, just like our book club, if the Joker only appears in the same amount that he appears in our book club, I think that creates the vibe that Matt Reeves is alluding to about the Joker, that the Joker is kind of representational of Gotham is always in danger, rather than the Joker ever need to be the main villain for our Batman when we're seeing these movies. And if that's how the Joker is utilized going forward, I am really stoked about that as a concept.
Yeah.
Because he's also made allusions to potentially
Mr.
Freeze
Freeze
as the next one, and I'm all about that because that's my favorite Batman villain.
Yeah.
So I would love that, but I love the idea that we might just be seeing this Barry Cohen as the Joker in a sense of like always a pervasive presence, but never actually our main guy.
Yeah, like
I think that would be lovely.
I think, we've had so much Joker. Like, he's been the primary bad guy of 2 of these movies. So, like, having him be, like, an outside force, like, having him be the guy who just gets hired, like, oh, I deal with Batman for a 10-minute scene. It's a really great scene. Like, as comic books happen, like, again, like our book club, like, I think Matt Reeves knows exactly what to do with the Joker, and it's not to overuse him.
So I want to say 2 things real quickly. One is we've had 3 Jokers in the past 5 years.
I forget about the last one.
Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix, and now Barry Keoghan.
Oh shit!
I think that's very interesting that we've had that many Jokers. But so because of that, I totally agree. Like, keeping him kind of on the back foot, not necessarily the main villain. The other thing is, Ben, do you know who plays the Joker?
No.
Druig from Eternals. There you go.
Makes sense.
There you go.
He's a good spooky guy, yeah.
The other thing that I want to talk about for like potential future is Robert Pattinson has already said he wants this, which is the Robin dynamic.
Yes.
And what I love about that is that I think that is so critical, and I like that. I feel like that's where we have to go now. Not necessarily that in the next movie we need Robin, but I do think we need the boy who becomes Robin.
Yeah.
Because of how this movie ends, that whole sense of him now having hope is him having hope for the future of Gotham. The future of Gotham would be represented by a new Robin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's him investing in the future.
To potentially be the next Batman.
And I would love to see that dynamic. I would love to see Robert Pattinson get to play that dynamic. So even if we don't get Robin in the next movie, I hope we get the boy that becomes him.
Robert Pattinson sure wants it. Every interview I'm talking about, he's like, give me that 13-year-old boy.
I would
chill out.
I would
Maybe
love
not like that.
I would love that dynamic to come out into these films. I think that would be great.
Like, it's obviously he's not any character, but like the main boy who is like constantly shown through the film, like heavy Robin vibes, and like again that character probably.
But more purposefully, I think like he's very good for what he's there for, which is like, because you're not being shown the Waynes dying again and what happened, you are bringing your knowledge of knowing who Bruce Wayne Batman is. That is where you're expected to like have the pop culture osmosis of you understand he is a parallel to Bruce, and that is what Bruce is seeing.
Yeah.
And that is creating that emotional connection for you. It would be a decent window for a Robin, but I do think like
it won't be
we have a clear palette of like what we could do going forward that I think could be very, very cool.
One final thing that I remember, when I don't remember when it happens, but Gordon has to like go against Batman, and Batman's like, even you, Gordon? And it's like he almost starts crying. Because the one friend he had betrayed him. And I'm like, oh, man, this is so good. All the Batmans have been really emotive under the mask. But, like, man, Pattinson just has those eyes that I'm like, man, you just look so sad all the time. I want to hug you.
I want to bounce off what Spark said about Robin real quickly. I think we kind of are in an interesting space with Robin, that you can pick either any Robin that has ever existed, any Batman sidekick. And it fills the role that would be necessary. I'm not saying that they're interchangeable characters, but like any one of those characters can fill the role of that kind of like more hopeful, optimistic future of where Gotham could be identified in any of those Robins.
I agree.
Except Jason Todd.
Except for Damian.
Oh, right. I don't think we need Damian.
No, but like honestly, like this being its own universe, they could do Dick, they could do Stephanie, they could do Cass. They could do Tim. Really, they could do just any Robin.
I was having a discussion with Megan where I was like, honestly, I feel like
Tim Drake rules.
I feel like where we're at, Tim Drake is the likeliest candidate,
so cool,
only because he is probably the most malleable for adaptation, where fans will expect less of you to do specific things. Like, we know what they'll expect you to do if you Jason Todd. We
or Dick
know
Grayson.
what they'll expect you to do if you have Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
Tim Drake, you're given a little bit more free reign.
He's a smart one. Just make him the smart one. You're great.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and that kind of goes back.
Fun fact: the boy who scampers off from the Joker gang, who gets scared of Batman, is Tim Drake in Titans.
Oh.
We didn't watch enough to know what happened to that kid.
Nope.
I think this kind of Robin discussion speaks to the point that like the quote unquote sillier elements can totally exist in this world and be done with the same care and love that we've seen with Batman. We can see Robin. We can see the Court of Owls. Honestly, like the Court of Owls would be a good antagonist for. I know they've been done to death, but the Court of Owls can be a good antagonist for specifically this Batman who is dealing with learning Gotham. And even like Dick Grayson has ties to the Court of Owls, so you could bring in Dick Grayson like that. Like there are ways that you can incorporate these things, and like honestly, I think Court of Owls might be my pick for where you go in the sequel, because that'd be really
100%.
cool.
I was
And
trying
in
to
all-
think
in
of a
all
villain
the-
for the next movie, and I really like the Court of Owls approach.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think it could be the next movie because he needs to establish that he knows Gotham inside and out to know that there's something hidden under there. This entire movie is about him discovering hidden stuff. It can't be the next movie again. It has to be the third one.
I think if Reeves is intending to do a trilogy, Court of Owls is how you end that trilogy.
Yeah.
Because that is Bruce truly getting to like the bottom of the bottom, right, of what's going on in Gotham. And like there will still be super criminals, but he'll clean up a large element if he's taken on the Court of Owls by the end of that trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
See, what I'm thinking of, not to push back on anything you two said, whether it be the next one or the third one, doesn't quite matter to me. What I'm thinking of seeing, of like what got me excited about it is, we always talk about that issue where it's Batman in the maze and he's going crazy and losing that. Like seeing Pattinson do that, kind of do that storyline would be so interesting to me to see. It's so powerful. Just thinking about what he could bring to that story specifically got me just excited.
Oh yeah, bro! I got a Court of Owls tattoo. I like the Court of Owls. I want to see them all day long.
I think there's a very good chance that they're utilized at some point in this Reeves verse.
Yeah. They also want it. Like again, like
I'm
these
sure
nerds.
I'm sure it's where we're headed.
It only makes sense. Again, you don't want to always use the same villains you constantly like that you've used before. Like Mr. Freeze is a good one to use because the only time we've got him, he was Arnold Schwarzenegger. But like doing villains you haven't seen yet is also great. Do that too.
Yeah, I think one of the things, the reason why I wanted to highlight just kind of the Court of Owls thing is like, going into this, I didn't want to see the Court of Owls. I like the Court of Owls. I think they're kind of overdone. I don't necessarily know why I think that, but coming out of this movie, thinking of the future of where this could go, and like that immediately excited me, which I was surprised by. And it's just a nice place to be in.
Yeah, I agree.
I think part of the thing that I'm just trying to project onto you what I think I feel about Court of Owls is once you get that initial hit of the run that's really great that is about the Court of Owls, every time they get referenced after that, the sheen of it is off a lot.
How much has it been referenced though? Because after Scott Snyder's run, how much like
a lot?
I'm actually asking because I don't know.
Well, they did the not the Nightwing, not Tom Taylor's Nightwing. The Nightwing before it dealt completely with the Court of Owls, how he almost took it over. It was kind of like the
one that was during the run.
No, it was after that too. It was
okay.
It was after that. It was before the Tom Taylor run, where he kind of takes over the Court of Owls and learns that the Court of Owls is like a global thing, and that becomes like he's trying to take down the Court of Owls.
Okay, gotcha.
So they have been utilized, and there was a lot of. There's been like I think Talons have popped up in numerous places.
Talon's on the Task Force Z right now. So yeah.
But like whatever. I was just saying it was a nice place to be and to be excited about something for the future.
Sure.
Yeah. No, like I actually didn't know because I haven't read any of that stuff, so I didn't know they've popped up in other places.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like it's a really great story, and part of the reason it's a really great story is because you kind of have to do it you really do kind of have to if you want to maintain it. That's a one and done.
Yeah.
That is I've unveiled the big thing. You can't unveil the big thing again.
Yeah.
And so anything after that is kind of watering it down.
Yeah.
And I do know that there have been allusions to that kind of stuff later in the comics and things that have happened. And I'm like, but you can't repeat that mixture. You can do a lot of different things with different villain stories, but you can't repeat the mixture of the moment that the Court of Owls were revealed.
Yeah.
That's a one-time thing, and you can't just keep revisiting that formula. But we haven't done it in live action films, so there's a lot of good precedent for that to happen.
Yeah. It'd be really creepy to see in this type of movie too.
Absolutely. I think it would look really cool in this look of the film.
Oh yeah.
I would love it. You know what I would love? I would love for Cobblepot to accidentally stumble into it.
Jesus.
like not that he gets involved, but he like steps into the wrong spaces as he's trying to build his rise to power.
I didn't see nothing.
Not even that we like really see. That's where we get our teases of it starting to happen. It's not even in the next Batman movie. It hardly even comes up in the next Batman movie.
Bro,
it's in the Penguin show where he's trying to make his rise to power, and he's like, "Why am I getting blocked in these weird ways? What's happening?"
It'll be the simplest. He's at the first big crime meeting. He's like, "We're on the kingpin of crime. Here's all these other villains, and there's one dude in an suit. Like, what's up with that guy? Don't worry about it." Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Or like he's being interrogated by Batman because you don't even know the truth about Gotham City.
Ooh, Batman.
The cinematographer of this film is the same one from Mando.
Yeah.
It looks great. I'm excited for great things from this guy. I'm so happy he's doing films now.
Yeah.
Or he was doing films before and I didn't heard of him. Either way, I'm excited to see more of him.
Great job all around. You guys did it. A+.
You made the movie.
Shall we wrap it up then?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Since Ben, your yes was exacerbated, you go first. What would you rate it?
Sorry, I'm starting to get tired again. 10. This movie was fantastic. I can't wait to see it again, fully rested without being stupid tired. Other than the length thing I said earlier, I really don't have anything bad to say about this movie. I don't have a negative. Like earlier, Brandon, you said 10 out of 10, no notes. I'm like, more I think about it, I don't really have notes. This movie I love every bit of this movie. So yeah, 10 out of 10.
Sparks.
Oh, it's a 10.
Anything we want to add or good?
I feel like we've covered it pretty well. Like
Ryan.
I'm very pleased this was the Batman movie I wanted.
I would give it a 9.5. I gave Spider-Man a 10. I still think I like Spider-Man more.
Yeah. It is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is everything I wanted in this Batman movie, in a Batman movie. Well, not everything, but like very close. So jazzed with it. Love it to pieces. Can't wait to see it again.
I love my Detective Batman.
Me too. Shall we get into our book club?